before, just across the road. One of the big sort of.
Oh, that's the Cullinan or Southern Sun. Yeah, yeah.
Is it? I'm not quite sure now. I thought
There's a
it was one
Western
of.
as well. There's a Western as well. And there's a few.
There's a few. Yeah. No, I thought that this was more a big name like a Marriott or something like that, but I could be
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
mistaken.
Marriott is there as well. Yes,
There's a
yeah.
big one. Yeah, yeah. Okay. So maybe that is the way to go instead of look, I'm going to be in South Africa 4 or 5 times this year.
Mm.
But it's which of the times is best for my wife to join me. I want it to be a time when I'm not too busy. And the July trip, I'm really only coming to July for one meeting in July, and possibly I'll be doing the same in August when I present at your Congress. I don't have any other courses to run, but of course I will organise meetings with education partners and so on.
I see about 940 participants.
Ah,
Gonna wait
fantastic.
a little bit more because we normally are close to 300, in excess of 300.
Okay,
Then we will start.
okay. Now, uh, please forgive me for not having the agenda ready yet. I should have thought about it more than I did when I promised that I would have it to you,
Don't worry.
a day or so,
Have
day,
a bit
day
of
or two ago. Because what I didn't realize, and I've been working on it for days, literally for days. And the issue is, and why it's such a lengthy process, is there's so many things that you've got to marry up. Not only do we need to have the right themes that address the educational needs of these different cohorts of dentists,
Yeah.
along the overarching theme of the future ready dental practice, and all the things that you've discussed with me that are important challenges to address and deliver solutions for. But we also need to find the right presenters from the network of business, financial consultants and institutions and organizations and so on, and marry them all up together in some way.
Mm.
And so it's proving not difficult, but it's a lengthier process than I thought. I'm almost there. I'm almost there. I've had 3 or 4 drafts so far and keep realizing, oh, I haven't got this subject. I haven't got that subject. I don't have a presenter for that. Anyway, I'm getting there. And it ultimately will be a draft and not a final. And of course, you're going to have input. And I'm sure there'll be more changes, but I just need a bit more time.
Okay. Thanks, Stephen. It's fine. You can send it to me by next week when you're ready. Okay, I think
Okay.
we're going to start. If we can
Okay.
start now. Great. Good evening, everyone, or colleagues and everyone. I'm Janelle Welgemoot, the current DPCOM or Dental Practice Committee Chair. And tonight marks the start of an exciting new collaboration between SADA and SABHA, South African Business Health Academy, where we're going to start focusing and supporting dentists to run their practices as sustainable, successful businesses. You'll see this initiative being rolled out across our webinars, branch meetings, and our congresses, so please look out for upcoming events. Please use the Q&A box at the bottom for any questions you may have. We will attend to that at the end of the webinar. And tonight's webinar carries one CEU point. It is now my pleasure to introduce to you all the way from Australia, where shame it's 3 o'clock in the morning, Stephen Macarounas, Program Director of the South African Business Health Academy. Over to you, Stephen.
Good evening, colleagues, and thank you, Yanel, for that lovely introduction. Yes, I am Stephen Macarounas. Yes, this is an Australian accent, and I'm speaking to you now from Sydney, where it is 3:30 a.m. on Friday morning. So please excuse my croaky voice and the bags under my eyes. So, my qualifications for talking with you. I am the Program Director of the South African Health Business Academy. And I've been teaching and advising healthcare professionals on business and financial management for almost 40 years. What most informs my work is a deep passion for helping doctors and dentists address the value of their lives. Now, before we begin, I'd like you to take a moment, just a moment, to step out of your day, out of your practice, out of your schedule, out of the noise. And I'd like you to consider a simple question, not quickly, not defensively, but honestly. Now, I'm going to share my slides. Now, first of all, let me get rid of my video and
Great. We can
okay.
see your screen. We can see your
Thank you.
screen.
Thank you very much. So, the question that I'm going to ask you is this. Is your practice thriving, surviving, or shrinking? I'm not interested in how busy you are, nor am I interested in how far ahead your appointment book is filled. But I am interested in whether your practice as a system is truly sustainable, financially, professionally, and personally. Because what we're going to talk about tonight is not just about dentistry, it's about the design of your professional life. Now, there has always been an implicit belief in dentistry that if you are clinically competent, if you work hard, if you care for your patients, your practice will succeed. And for a long time, that was largely true. But something has shifted. Quietly, gradually, structurally. Across the world, and increasingly in South Africa, we're seeing a different pattern. Practices that are busier than ever, working longer hours, delivering high quality care, and yet feeling more pressure, more uncertainty, and in many cases, less control. Now, this is not a perception problem. It's a systemic shift in the economics of dentistry. If we step back and we look at the profession globally, we can describe this moment quite clearly. Dentistry is reaching an inflection point. Costs are rising faster than fee growth. Patients are behaving differently. Funding systems are tightening, and professional expectations are expanding. Individually, each of these is manageable, but together, they create something far more significant. They create pressure on the system itself. And that pressure shows up in very specific ways. I'm sure you've seen this. I'm sure this is not new to you. Compressed margins, increased workload, reduced flexibility, and growing emotional fatigue. This is not temporary. This is structural. Every dental practice, whether we like to use this term or not, is a small business. Now, I'm sure that this is a concept not so difficult for you to understand as dentists, but let me tell you, whenever I'm speaking to a group of doctors, convincing them that their practices are businesses is often a very difficult task. But for you, I'm sure you're aware of this. There's something about dentists, you understand that you're business people as well as clinicians. So every dental practice is a business. It has high fixed costs. It has skilled labor. There's a significant degree of capital investment and limited pricing control, which means it's inherently sensitive to economic pressure. Now, layer on top of that rising staff costs, increasing material and lab fees, technology expectations, compliance requirements. And then consider this, your ability to increase fees is often constrained. So what happens? The gap between cost and revenue begins to narrow. And that is what we call margin compression. And margin compression is one of the most dangerous forces in any business. because it's often invisible at first. Let me ask you something. Over the past 2 to 3 years, have your costs increased? Have your fees increased at the same rate? And has your stress level decreased or increased? Now, you don't need to answer out loud, but you already know the answer. Let's make this very clear. There are three major forces shaping your practice today. Rising operational costs, staff, materials, laboratory fees, technology, compliance, all increasing. Then we have funding pressure, minimal increases from funders, increasing scrutiny, administrative burden, and perhaps most importantly, a subtle shift in control. Then changing patient behavior. Patients are more informed, they're more anxious, they're more price sensitive, and increasingly, they are making decisions based on perceived value, not just clinical need. Now, here is the key insight here. Guess what? None of these forces are going away. Let me share a scenario, and I want you to listen carefully because you may recognize this. A mid-career dentist in private practice, suburban setting, booked out 6 weeks in advance. On paper, this is success. But internally, rising costs, staff turnover, increasing anxiety about cash flow, delayed equipment upgrades. Working harder each year, but feeling less secure. Now, here is the important point. The problem was not demand. The problem was not clinical skill. The problem was not effort. The problem was lack of structural design. Now, once this practice introduced financial visibility, preventive care systems, better scheduling design, something changed. Let me break this down further. What do I mean by financial visibility? When we talk about financial visibility, we are simply talking about this. Do you truly understand the economics of your practice in real time? Not just your revenue at the end of the month, but what it costs you to deliver care, what each hour of your time is producing, where profit is being generated, and where it is being lost. Because without visibility, you're not making decisions, you're just guessing. Now, preventative care systems. Hopefully this is not new to you, but preventative care systems are about moving away from reactive, episodic dentistry toward planned continuity-based care. Instead of seeing patients only when something goes wrong, you design systems that recall patients consistently, structure preventative visits, build long-term care pathways. Now, mind you, I know lots of people try this and say it doesn't work, they don't respond. You know what the key is here? Education. The key here is empowerment. We're not going to talk about this too much today, but in future webinars, and certainly, and we'll talk about later, the sessions that we're running at your upcoming Congress, and beyond that, the education program that we're building in collaboration with SADA. We're going to talk about education as a tool. We're going to talk about education as a community engagement platform. So this notion of building a practice that's based on preventative care systems will be informed by a community education platform and program that we'll talk further about. So preventative care systems, do two things. They improve patient outcomes and stabilize your practice demand. And better scheduling design. Most practices don't have a scheduling system. They have a booking system. Appointments are filled, but not designed. Better scheduling design means structuring your day intentionally, allocating time for different types of care, reducing bottlenecks and idle gaps, aligning your schedule with your most valuable work. Because your schedule is not just your diary, it is the engine of your practice. Now, none of these changes are dramatic on their own, but they are meaningful. Together, they shift a practice from reactive to intentional, from fragile to resilient. And that shift, it's not clinical, it's structural. And that's where real transformation begins. This is the central idea I want you to take away tonight. Many practices are not failing because they lack patience. They are struggling because they lack design. High activity does not equal sustainability, and working harder is not a strategy. So let me bring you back to the question we started with. Is your practice thriving, surviving, or shrinking? And perhaps most importantly, is it because of your effort or because of your structure? So, today was meant to be an introduction. Today was meant to be a positioning of future education, resources, thought leadership, guidance to come. There are several webinars in this series under the overarching banner of the Future Ready Private Practice that we will deliver between now and your Congress in August. And their intention is to pose questions, to get you thinking, to get you shifting from simply working in your practice to working on your practice. But at your Congress, the rubber really hits the road. At your Congress, we will be taking this conversation further. Not just awareness, but action. In the plenary session, we will explore the future-ready dental practice framework, the forces shaping the profession, and the leadership required going forward. Then following the plenary session, we're running a workshop. And that workshop is all about rolling your sleeves up and starting to begin the design of your practice, designing your practice differently, addressing the brittle and the brittleness and the fragility of your practice, and building robust systems for sustainability and for future relevance and for continued growth and scale. So this is important. Why is it important? Because the future of dentistry is not something we inherit. The future of dentistry is something we design. This is a presentation that's been way under the half hour that was proposed, but we're there. Thank you very much for your attention. We're now going to open up to questions and answers. And hopefully I will do my best to answer your questions. And if not, I have Yanel who can answer from a more South African perspective. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Stephen. I think that was a very good little taster for what's to come, and it certainly is very exciting. I myself cannot wait for the Congress and just to see what, the rest of the SABHA offering is. Unfortunately, Yanel has had to step away. But, before we receive any questions from our audience, I thought you and I could perhaps chat a little bit more on preventative care systems as well as just scheduling design, etc. So, I was wondering, how do you, as a practice, how do you design a schedule that it allows for emergencies and human error, like if you're running late or whatever the case is, which is like essentially like a buffer zone, without making your entire day just feel completely unproductive.
Well, that's a good question. Thank you so much, Tanisha, for that. You can only do so through more expansive and robust resources. Something that you'll hear from me over and over again through this webinar series, and certainly when we start the in-person program in August at your Congress and beyond that, you'll hear from me that the days of the solo practice are over. They really are. There is absolutely no way that you can be truly successful as a solo practitioner. And my definition of success is not just about, as I said before, how far ahead you have patients booked in and how busy you are and how much revenue is coming in. Success is more than that. Success is about freedom to live your life the way you want to live. The success is about your ability to practice the way you want to practice. And of course, financial security and all the other, how do I put it, tangible characteristics. But it's also about mindset and comfort. So, and I won't labor the point now. We'll discuss this further at future sessions. But if you've got the right resources, if it's not just you that is patient facing, if you are a group practice, a multidisciplinary practice, a practice with employed practitioners, with a program for succession, where just like the big accounting firms and the law firms, I mean, they employ younger doctors, younger professionals, they train them, they mentor them, they choose from them the best to offer partnership and equity. Now that model converts your business from one individual centric practice to a real entity that has longevity, that has resources, that allows for a redundancy, allows for changes in schedule, allows for the unpredictable because the resourcing is there. Now, ideally, you want everybody to be busy. But where you've got more resources, where you've got partners, where you have associates, where you have, employed doctors, where you are a multidisciplinary practice, where there's allied health robustness within the practice, so it's not just general dentistry, but a whole lot of other related services under the one roof, where you are a proper, a resourced multidisciplinary dental clinic, then you can cope with and deal with and have the resources and infrastructure to address, a more intentional and resilient model. Does that sort of at a high level address your question?
100%. No, it totally does. Um, I noticed with dentistry, and especially being at SADA, we have a lot of dentists who are very anti looking at their numbers. They don't want to know what is going on. And I don't know what it is about dentists and numbers. They don't like looking at their books. They just, oh, it's the accountant's problem. The accountant must deal with that.
Yeah. Yeah.
What do you think? Is there like a specific gateway sort of metric that gives them like an overview or clarity without overwhelming them completely or stressing them out?
Yeah. Look, I totally get that. And you know why I understand that? And I started smiling and laughing when you said that, because I'm the same. I'm exactly the same. I hate looking at the numbers because I consider myself, my job and my resources and my time are best spent in growth and in strategy rather than I consider that administration. So I hate that and I understand that. There's only one way to address this. Now, let me say this. Let me go back a step. Burying your head in the sand around your numbers is suicidal. It's absolutely suicidal. How do we keep on top of our numbers and have our finger on the pulse
Mm.
without it becoming a chore and leading to us doing things we just don't want to do? And let me tell you, I'm almost 63 years old, Tanesha, and at my stage in life, I don't choose to do things, and I do not want to do things I don't enjoy. So how do you do that? How do you make sure you're on top of the numbers, but you don't have to be the person doing it? There's only one way: scale. You need to be big enough, robust enough, profitable enough, generating significant, not just revenue, but profit to allow for other people to do that for you,
Mm.
who can summarize all this for you in an easily digestible way once a week. You should not be your own bookkeeper. You should
Mm.
not be your own accountant. You should not be spending time poring over numbers and spreadsheets and all it not you should not do anything administrative. Anything. But you don't have a choice where you're the only person earning the money,
Mm.
whether you've got these increasing costs and so small business can be overwhelming. And that's why most healthcare professionals in private practice do not have a life.
Mm. Very
You know,
true.
they pretend to be successful because they've got these huge waiting lists. They pretend to be successful because they're keeping their patients waiting in their waiting room and there's lots of revenue coming in. But when you pay everybody, there's not a lot left over for you. So you
Mm.
need to grow. If you're not big, if you're not scaling, if you're not considering the characteristics of the future ready practice and embedding them within your practice, then you can't have the luxury of a bookkeeper. They don't even have to be employed by you, but a bookkeeper that works alongside your accountant whose job it is to, you know, assess the weekly numbers and come back to you with a report. Now, software and technology can make this a lot easier than it used to be. But
Yeah.
still, you don't want to be the person managing that software. Whilst the ads from the software companies tell you it's easier, click here and a click there. Again, you're a clinician. Be a clinician, but also be an entrepreneur. Be the head of the business. Be the person who delegates that
Mm.
I need to know this, and this, and you're going to do this for me. You're going to do this, and this. And once a week, have a 1 hour meeting about the numbers. Doesn't even have
Mm.
to be that. It could be half an hour, but
Yes.
have the capacity to easily and comfortably pay for that. And you know what? The return on investment of paying for a bookkeeper to summarize your numbers and give you a half an hour briefing once a week, the return on the cost of that is significant because you have business intelligence that tells you what you need to change, what you
Yes.
need to move forward, what you need to address. It's crucial. There's a line from Lewis Carroll's um, Alice in Wonderland. That's not the exact title. It's actually different. That's the title that we're all used to. But there's another title, I can't remember it right now. And it's if you don't know where you're going, any road will do.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we need to have our finger on the pulse. And the finance side of our business is one aspect of it, but many others as well. And
Mm.
certainly we're going to explore that in a lot more detail, the concept of business intelligence in dental practice. What
Mm.
do you need to pay attention to? What numbers? And the numbers are not just income and expenses. Numbers are patients and treatment plans and all sorts of things that we need to measure. And we need
Mm.
to measure the right
Absolutely.
things. We need to measure the right things, and from those measurements come strategy. And
Yes.
and 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 these are all things that we are very concerned with and very keen to introduce in this relationship between SADA and the South African Health Business Academy.
Okay. In South Africa, there's a very big pain point for us, and this is medical aids. I don't know how it works in Australia, but in South Africa, medical schemes or medical insurance, if you will, it's very limiting. They have all sorts of rules in place. Sometimes those rules are nonsensical. Sometimes, and 100% of the time, the rules are based on financials and budgets and what the scheme can afford to pay, not what the patient needs.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Um, so say if I was a practice owner and I wanted to evaluate or reevaluate my pricing strategy, and I'm at 100% capacity at the moment, but I still feel very financially fragile.
yeah.
What would you suggest?
Oh gosh, Tanisha, this is not an easy
I'm sorry.
challenge. No, well, there is an answer. There is an answer, but it's not a magic wand.
Yes.
The bottom line is this. Let's not skirt around the issue. Let's go straight to it. The services that you provide as dentists are considered by the population as discretionary.
Yes.
There are some people who are prepared for the teeth in their mouth to rot
Mm.
before they see a dentist and pay the money to do so. That's a reality we can't ignore. We have to understand that. How do we address that? Now, medical aids will pay so much. What's embedded within your question is this notion that patients will only have work done to the point that is covered by medical aid.
Mm.
That's what's embedded. Now, what's your challenge? Your challenge is to educate them to understand that paying for dental health will require out-of-pocket cost, out-of-pocket spending.
Yes.
Now, how do you do that in a nation that has economic pressures, that has a significant degree of cash flow, challenge and burden? How do you do that? Again, there's no easy answer here. Education is very important. Community engagement is extremely important. The right marketing strategies are very important. Conversation, language, developing a new way of speaking and
Mm.
connecting with your patients is extremely important. Let me put it in a crude way. Dentists and dentist staff need the right terminology and sales
Mhm.
skills. Now,
Yes.
when I say sales skills, that's a very antithetic term to a clinician. We're not here to sell anybody anything. Let me clarify that by saying that my definition of sales is not, I have a product. How do I convince you that you need it? That's not the way to consider and to think of this process. It's rather, I have extremely strong conviction that you need what I deliver. You need it. But there are challenges, there are psychological and financial challenges to you accepting and recognizing that what I'm saying is true and in your best interests. Now, some financial burdens we just can't overcome. We just can't overcome. You cannot be profitable delivering high quality dental care to communities that simply can't afford it, for whom the priority is putting food on the table.
Yeah.
You just can't.
Absolutely.
And so therefore there is a question for you here. What markets do you serve? And now, having said that, I understand absolutely. Whilst I am Australian and have spent most of my life doing what I do in Australia, I do absolutely understand the challenges and the hurdles and the conditions in South Africa. And I've done my research. I've lived. I understand. I truly have built programs for the South African community based on your conditions, your circumstances, your challenges, but also your opportunities. And so I believe, and this is a question that comes up over and over in our events that we run in South Africa, I believe that there is scope for pro bono, for charitable work, for doing work at less than profitable rates, so long as there is a part of your business that is exceedingly profitable.
Mm.
So, a doctor I work very closely with and who speaks at the courses that we run for medical practitioners, it said this, and I've used this phrase ever since. We give best when we do so from a full cup.
100%.
So if you want there to be a charitable component within your practice, that's great. But make sure that your practice is a profitable one and a successful one and a growing one before you
Yeah.
do that. Otherwise, you'll go broke in the meantime.
Yeah, absolutely.
So this is a roundabout way of addressing this issue of how do we deal with medical aids who are putting the squeeze on us. You've got to, first of all, dismiss this notion that patients will only pay what they can get from a medical aid, and start to develop a mindset and a universe or a menu of services that require patients to pay on top of what they get. And you need the right vocabulary and this is going to sound crude, but sales strategy
Mm.
to help those who can afford it realize
Mm.
the value for money in doing so.
Yeah,
And how do you do that? Education is key.
yeah.
You need to be more than just an excellent clinician. You need to be a great communicator. You need to be a great educator to the point where education becomes an extremely important and crucial role of your practice. Now, I'm answering this in a very roundabout way, and we will certainly unpack this in more detail. This is what I call marketing.
Mm.
Marketing, again, is not about selling something. It's about communicating your value proposition. So we're not going to change medical aids. They are businesses. They're businesses, they're for profit. They really don't care about the patient and they really don't care about you.
Mm.
Really. That's not their role. You care about the patient. You care about yourself and your family. So medical aids are tools, but we should not be thinking that we can only provide services equal to that allow for profitability based on what a medical aid will pay. If that's all you do, you are dumbing down who you are.
Mm.
And if you want to discount your services to certain patients and certain communities, do so, but only do so in a way that allows you to through a bigger plan and a bigger platform and a model that is making money from other cohorts and other sectors of the market, in that way that makes sense. Because let's face it, even if you don't care about your own quality of life, even if you don't care about what you earn and money at all, and you just want to serve patients who can't afford it, you're going to burn out.
Yeah.
You will not survive. You will not be good at, the most effective philanthropists in the world, the most effective ones are not poor people. They're
No.
rich people. They're
Yes.
rich people,
Definitely. Yeah.
and I mean, and we'll talk about this further. Because they have the capacity to do more work and more good. So I haven't answered. I'm not sure if I've answered your question directly, but there's no direct answer to it. There's a
No, there
broader
isn't one.
conversation.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it isn't. So we have it's not really a question, but it's a comment, and it's a little bit disheartening. As a single dentist running a practice, this lecture is breaking my hope and spirit and convinces me my efforts are futile. I cannot grow my practice in the area I work. Then it is better for me to close down as I am already struggling for a number of years.
Well, that is a heartbreaking response to what we've said. I certainly didn't mean to deliver a lecture that robbed you of hope, but rather was pragmatic and helped you to see the reality and maybe give you an inkling of what you can change to move forward. I'm going to make some assumptions here. Your question, your comment makes me think that maybe you are working in an area geographically where there is not a significant opportunity for you to generate appropriate revenue to make your practice work properly, and for you to develop the systems, the service offering that helps to generate appropriate revenue for your quality of life, but also to build the appropriate services that people need. And I get that. I understand that. You know, when we started working in South Africa quite a few years ago, the shift in our program, and our program is about helping healthcare professionals run better, explore career options, run better business, understand that healthcare practices are businesses, so therefore run better businesses, run better financial lives, and run better quality of life. So that's at the core of what we do, and that's an education-led empowerment platform. But when we started coming to South Africa, we realized that the bigger challenge in South Africa was not doctors' quality of life, but rather equity of healthcare for all.
Yeah.
And I absolutely get that. But as we've just finished, discussing, it's impossible as a private practitioner, as the owner and principal of a private practice, to deliver quality of healthcare for all, or at least to make your little dent in that challenge, unless you have a robust, profitable, growing business. It's just impossible. We're not even talking about, delivering an appropriate quality of life for you and your family, commensurate with the and respecting and addressing, the risks and the investment that you've made and the return on that investment that you should have. And that return on investment may not be financial, may not be about the conventional definition of wealth. Forget that. Put that aside. It may just be, the satisfaction that you're doing good and delivering on your promise. It's impossible to do that where there's no money coming in to help.
Yeah.
So I don't know, despondent responder. I don't know how to address that other than to say that perhaps you should look at, if geography is an issue, if the what's the word I'm looking for? If the characteristics of your market are an issue in achieving a growing, profitable, successful practice, then maybe you need to move location. Moving location doesn't mean you abandon the community that you wish to serve, those that are financially challenged and so on. But the only way to address their needs, the only way to do good, we help others best when we do so from a full cup.
Yeah. No, I agree with that.
I don't know if you've got anything to add to that, Tanesha, but I understand the challenge. but you need to be bringing in enough money to be able to handle the pro bono work, so to
No,
speak.
absolutely. That makes complete sense to me. Another comment that we received from Dr. Alistair Brown is just remember that corporations take the care out of healthcare.
Yeah, yeah, I know that. 100%. 100%. The worst thing that you can have, and I don't know if this is already happening in South Africa. Tell me if it is, Tinisha. In Australia, funders now own networks of dental practices.
Yes, it is happening. There's such a rise of what they call is it DSOs or something, dental service organizations, where they are corporate companies that are taking over dental practices,
Yeah,
orthodontic
yeah,
practices, etc., paying
yeah,
the dentist or recruiting the dentist on as a partner or whatever it
yeah,
may be.
yeah,
It's also where you have like corporate health services. We have um, like these large groups of 10 dentists working in a single practice and they're remunerated on a commission basis, etc.
yeah, yeah.
So it it has become, there's the on the one aspect we try from a SADA perspective, we try and drive the thought that dentistry is a business at the end of the day. However, there must be a balance. It's a healthcare business. It is not where it's simply a conveyor belt of patients that you are literally pushing in and out like a sausage factory. Um,
100%.
yeah, so
100%.
that's where
Yeah,
this
yeah.
comment is perhaps coming from.
I get it. I get it. I get it. And so here's the solution. The last thing I am advocating for, because I totally disagree with it, and the evidence, at least in Australia, proves that it doesn't work, is for you to become a corporate. But let me tell you, unless you embody the good qualities of business and institutions and corporates, not the bad ones, unless you as private practitioners, as as clinicians running healthcare businesses, unless you are the ones that drive scale, unless you are the ones that build group practices, multidisciplinary practices, employ, have a network of employed doctors with a program of of growth, admitting your younger doctors as partners and growing and building multi-site practices. Now, this sounds very corporate, doesn't it? But if it's driven by clinicians, if it's driven by dentists, if you keep the heart in it, if
Yes.
you keep the care in it, you are taking the good from that model and infusing and continuing to have it driven through a care perspective and flavor.
Mm.
That model doesn't end up with the care in healthcare being diminished and eroded, and competes with and battles against the dehumanized, you know, corporate owned practices. Now, I don't blame a latter year dentist, approaching retirement. I don't blame them from where there's no other options selling their practice to a corporate. They've got to fund their retirement somehow. And by the way, if you are not growing your practice and running your practice in a way that is leading to a succession plan, where if you're not growing it as an asset that can be sold, then you're missing out on a huge opportunity, not just for significant financial return in your twilight years and retirement funding, resources, but you're also not best addressing the needs of your patient. Because a practice that is sale ready is a practice that works. A practice that's sale ready is a practice that's delivering on its promise, not just to its owners, but to all stakeholders of that practice, including its patients and the broader community that it serves.
Mm.
That's another question and another issue, and we're going to talk about that further.
Okay.
This whole concept of a practice as a business, as a saleable entity. It's not a bad thing, it's a good thing. Now, what we want to do as a profession, and what SADA wants to encourage, I'm sure, is the sale from within.
Mm.
A practice that is growing and building and addressing the evolving needs of the patient, that is multidisciplinary, that is group, that is multi-doctor, and that has a program, a system for admitting new partners, new owners, as those in exactly the same way that the big accounting firms and the law firms and other professional service providers. As people get to, as principals get to, and owners get to, and clinicians get to a point of retirement, they sell their share down to younger doctors waiting hungrily to buy in.
Yeah, yeah.
But they're only going to do that. They're only going to buy into a practice rather than set up their own practice if there's commercial reasons to do so.
Yes.
If
Yes.
if your practice embodies the characteristics of a saleable practice, most healthcare practices are not saleable because they're not businesses, because they are totally dependent on the skill set and the reputation and the connections and the engagement of an individual. It's not a business.
Absolutely. And I think in line with that, our next question, it's exactly the same point you're touching on now. In the South African context, how does one move from solo practice to a robust practice? Especially as the speaker has pointed out, solo practitioners are struggling. It seems like quite a leap. I think it's understandable. People are nervous. It's their livelihoods.
Yeah. I get it. It is a leap. It is a leap. But it's a leap you don't have to take all in one big step, but it's gradual things. You need to increase the capacity of your practice to see more patients, and at the same time, build a funnel to bring those patients in. And the capacity of your practice to see, and you need to balance that. It needs to be done in a very delicate way. So we're talking about building a service offering that's going to attract more patients, and then communicating that service offering to the community through marketing strategy. And marketing, again, it's not sales. Marketing is, I have a very strong conviction that you need what I deliver.
Yes.
In fact, not you need what I deliver, more that this is a service developed based on our research of what you're telling us you need. We are in tune with not just in a salesy way, but truly through research. This is what the modern healthcare patient is asking for, whether they know what they're asking for or not. We know what they want. They want a seat at the table. They want communication. They want education. They want to make informed decisions. They want to see value for money. I keep, I've said it before, I'll keep saying it, education's key to all of this. And building an education platform as part of your marketing strategy is something that we spend quite a bit of time talking about in our face-to-face events. So developing a service offering, the capacity to see a lot more patients, and then the market outreach to attract the patients, to communicate the patients into your practice. Doing that then allows you to be able to afford broader resourcing, building a group practice, hiring younger doctors as associates with the view to equity, with a path to equity and a path to ownership. And then what does that look like? Well, there's legal and accounting and structural, decisions and platforms that need to be created to make that work. But, the short answer is the way you go from solo to group is adopting a business mindset.
And I think this is exactly where this course is going to help. The academy offering as a whole, I think, is going to be something perhaps that, many dentists have not been exposed to before. This entire change in mindset, especially, adopting dentistry as a business, but also keeping the heart of dentistry still there. Our next comment slash question is, it's a bit of a long one. I've been a very successful dental practitioner in a mixed economic class suburb where I am a member of the community. I'm a family person and I own my own house, my motor vehicle. I have no major financial obligations. My children have had private schooling, post-grad education, and I go on vacation every year. All this because of the community I serve, and I owe it to them. What more do I need to do to be a happy human being?
Nothing.
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 Absolutely.
Nothing. Don't change a thing. Don't change it. My only question to you is, can you afford that lifestyle when you stop working?
Yeah, when you plan to retire.
If your answer to that is yes, I've saved enough money, I have significant assets and wealth to be able to stop at my chosen retirement age, and that's not going to impact on my lifestyle, then give me your model because I want to follow that.
I
So
think
my
you should
answer is
join the
nothing. I mean,
academy.
it sounds like you're doing. So look, if you don't feel stressed, if you're happy, look. When I say the solo practitioner, and I'm assuming what's implicit in your question comment is that you're a solo practitioner and you've
Yes.
managed to achieve all of that. If when I say the days of the solo practice are numbered, they're over. You cannot be successful that way. There are, of course there are healthcare professionals, clinicians who have been frugal throughout their lives. They've been very disciplined. They've used their money well. They have served their community well. They have been lucky enough to, as this respondent has said, to be in a mixed socioeconomic area that's allowed for them to make money off those that can afford it and provide services to those that can't in a perhaps less profitable way financially, but certainly in terms of a spiritual and sort of soul enriching way, very successful nonetheless. And so that, of course, that exists and that's possible. I would venture to say less and less moving forward. I would venture to say that this particular respondent is probably around my age, maybe a little bit younger, because I'm always the oldest person in the room.
I don't think.
Well, despite the lack of grey hair on my head, I am 63 years old, almost turning 64. So people of my vintage and perhaps a little bit younger, there are examples of that sort of more cottage industry approach to healthcare and professional services, who have been successful. But I've got to tell you, achieving what you've achieved, sir or madam, is not that easy today for a younger person.
Yeah, I think it was a lot easier back then.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
yeah, I
yeah.
think, and just going on that, we just received a new question now. I have tried to introduce younger dentists to my practice, but patients are not keen. So I moved my practice home. I'm solo. So I intend to work till I cannot. How would I transfer my practice to someone who is keen when the practice is at my home?
Oh gosh.
That's very difficult. Sell your home.
Well, the short answer is you can't. The
Yeah.
shorter answer is put yourself in the shoes of a young doctor or young dentist, I should say. You're offering the sale of a practice. Your practice is in your home. What are they going to work out of your home?
Mm.
Um, are your patient when you say your patients are not keen, I would simply suggest that you haven't managed that transition in the past properly. You haven't managed that introduction properly. I don't mean to be disrespectful, but this is a question that comes up a lot. My patients love me. I am my practice. They don't want to see anybody else. The only person that mentality serves, and by the way, that is a reality based on that's more your issue than the patient issue. You're accepting that. You secretly, sorry to say this, I'm going to be a bit of a psychologist here. You are secretly encouraging that
Mm.
because it serves you and probably your mother, the
It
only
makes
other
me
person,
good. Yes,
you know,
absolutely.
to have this reality that I am the best dentist in the world and they only want to see me and nobody else. Well, I mean, if that makes you sleep comfortably at night, great. And I don't mean, sorry, I'm being flippant and I'm being disrespectful. I get where that's coming from. And it
Mm.
probably isn't really what you want, but I'm sure there's a degree of subconscious sort of bias towards that being true. There are ways. The answer is there are certainly ways, and it's all about communication and vocabulary and wording and service offering and strategies for introducing new practitioners into a practice and introducing them to patients that you've seen for years, for decades. There are ways of doing that.
Mm.
If accountants can do that, if lawyers can do that, if doctors, medical doctors can start to understand the importance of doing that, then dentists can.
Yes.
And you know what? You know what? It isn't just about who sees your existing patients. To have a saleable practice, you need to be a growing practice. You need a platform, a system, a program for growth. So we bring in younger doctors to see new patients to start with.
Mm.
Disavow yourself of the notion, anybody out there thinking about selling their practice, that you're going to say, I'm selling my practice and within 3 months it's done. That's impossible. You need to be bringing in younger doctors. You need to be bringing in the buyers, the successors to your practice way ahead of your retirement date,
Mhm.
years ahead of your retirement date. And then that transition, and first of all, they start seeing new people. They
Yeah.
start seeing the children of your patients. And you build greater demand, as I said before, through marketing and strategy and communication and education, and you have the resources for new and patients to come in. And then as they establish a reputation and a rhythm and are part of the practice, and eventually you make them a partner of that practice, that's when you start transitioning your existing, and you tell them, I'm retiring in 2 years.
Mm. Yeah, I think it's important
So
to mentally prepare your patients as well. It,
absolutely. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Another question that we have, Anonymous, may you please comment on an important aspect that influences a practitioner's success, the scope of practice being utilized or exploited, where general practitioners provide more specialized services to patients. This trend is decreasing the specialist practice's profitability.
Oh my goodness. Yes, I know. I know. I know. I know. So I'm assuming this is coming from a specialist dentist.
Yes.
Look, look, you know what? I could be wrong here about the South African experience. This is something I haven't really studied in South Africa, but I understand how it works in Australia. In Australia, the generalist has power,
Mm.
not the specialist.
Yeah, so
I have seen,
it's very
sorry.
much the same. So
Yeah.
you have we do have limitations of scope of practice for the general dentist, but to a large extent, the general dentist is allowed to do much of what the
Yeah,
specialist can do as well.
yeah,
Like take, for example, orthodontics. Orthodontics is very much an open field. Um, so yeah, it is this. So I can definitely understand where the specialist is coming from.
yeah.
I'm sure it sounds like it's very similar in Australia as well.
It is, it is, it is. There just isn't enough regulation. And this whole concept of demarcation is not policed. Um, I, I, I don't know, honestly, how to answer this. Well, I don't have a solution. Um, because, because, look, I'm just repeating something you already know, and I'm thinking out aloud here. Patients, dental patients have relationships with their general practitioners. And if a general practitioner says, I can do this for you, you need this specialist care and I can do this for you, and the conversation of referring to a specialist never comes up in the conversation, then that patient is going to use their general dentist, their general practitioner. Not because they've made an informed decision around quality and specialization and 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 ultimately successful outcomes. They haven't even considered any of that. That's all. That whole conversation's been bypassed. In fact,
Mm.
I would suggest that most dental patients probably are not even aware of, other than orthodontists. They don't even know the term periodontist and all the
Mm.
other
Absolutely.
specialized. They don't even know it. And I'm sorry, this is not giving you the answers that you're asking for. I know in Australia, extremely good dental specialists who have left dentistry because of the general dentist doing their work. There is one answer. There is one answer. And the answer is, and I'm totally putting this on your shoulders now, Tinesha, that SADA and other bodies need to lobby for greater control and policing of work being done by generalists that they're not qualified to do.
Mm.
I'll give you an answer. I'll give you an example. Um, um, many years ago, decades ago, um, back in the late 1980s, I was a financial advisor to healthcare professionals. That's how I started in this business of developing and delivering business and financial education for healthcare professionals. I was a financial advisor. And one of my clients was a dentist. And this dentist, he was an aesthetic, cosmetic dentist. And he did a 4-day course on anesthesiology in dentistry.
Mm-hmm.
And he put one of his patients under general anesthetic,
Oh, wow.
and you're allowed and totally okay, allowed to do this. And that patient didn't wake up
Oh my goodness.
in the chair, didn't wake up. That patient died.
Sure.
Um, that dentist, um, his mental state following that meant that he could never work again.
Mm.
He wasn't, emotionally able to cope with what he had done. He took it on board as his mistake, and it's hard to argue otherwise.
Yeah.
But it was totally, he wasn't breaking any rules,
Yeah.
but the rules were wrong. The rules were not tight enough. How dare that be? How could that possibly be? That
Yeah.
anybody that other than an anesthetist is allowed to put anybody under general anesthetic.
Mm. Mm. Yeah, but I think
So
it's important that, the general practitioner must understand their limitations as well. You
But
cannot,
unless they're enforced, Tinesha,
yeah,
unless
it's
unless
a tough
they are
one.
enforced, well, it's not going to happen. They see a patient, they see money. Why should I give? I mean, I'm sorry to say this. Even I went to my general practitioner dentist, and he did some cosmetic work on a tooth that I'd snapped and had an amalgam there for over 40 years. And he did some work to align the color so that it was all one. So, and he wasn't really, I mean, he did it because he knew how to do it, but that wasn't his specialization. I should have gone to somebody else who, but that's so I don't know. Look, I don't know how education, establishing a relationship with general specialists, establishing a referral relationship with generalists, another thing to explore. But
Yeah.
again, financial and economic imperatives are what's forcing this,
But I mean,
stepping on
again,
each other's turf.
above all, I think that's the most important point that SADA tries to drive home as well. I'm going to just step off this topic because there is another couple of questions that are piling up before we have
And,
to
and, and
close off.
yeah, and I'm going to have to leave soon because I need to get some sleep. But anyway,
Okay, so we have an anonymous attendee who says that he or she would like to stop working on Saturdays, but finds it extremely difficult to do so as patients have time to bring their families. It's a case of most patients don't work on Saturdays, but expect us to.
yeah, yeah. Okay. So put somebody else on. Put somebody on.
Mm,
Put on an associate who doesn't work just Saturdays. Put on an associate that works throughout the week, and also set a younger person who has who doesn't have the same commitments that you do on weekends. How do you afford to put on that younger person? Well, you do so by expanding the demand for your services.
mm,
I'll give you a quick story. I had a good friend who was a marketing manager for an oil company, and he told me an interesting thing that I think applies to healthcare practice as well. He said, when we had these petrol stations, service stations, that went from regular hours to 24-hour stations,
mhm, mhm,
they made a big splash. They made a big marketing kick, a big promotion around. We're now a 24-hour station. We can sell you petrol and anything that you can buy from our shop, any time of the day. When they did that, not only did they get more business and more custom during those extended hours, but they increased the business and the custom during regular hours,
mm.
which is a strange thing.
Yeah.
So I like the idea of a healthcare practice being a 7-day, 6-day a week, say, practice. But you don't have to be Mr. or Miss or Ms. Solo practitioner, the person that sees people on the weekends. You need a life.
No, absolutely. And I think you can also use that Saturdays as an opportunity to start introducing more practitioners in the practice. Take it
Yep.
slowly, have
Yep.
one day a week, even if it is a Saturday, where you see families come. And like you said, having the children see the new dentist would be an ideal opportunity to do that. So,
Yeah, and there's probably a transition where you may need to, for a
mm,
while, or it be there to introduce the new dentist, not doing the work, but
yeah,
introduce the new dentist. And you may, for several months, maybe even a year, be there every Saturday for that transition of existing patients and their extended families. I don't know. You can work that out. But don't say no. But at the same time, don't be the person that does the work. Here's your opportunity. If you've got the Saturday demand, here's your opportunity to turn your practice into a multi-dentist practice, eventually a group practice with a succession plan for these
yes.
younger dentists to eventually buy you out. But I can understand your reticence to do that in a mindset where you're saying, where you're thinking you've only got your existing patient flow and your existing patient base, And by doing this, all you're doing is reducing your profitability and giving your money away to somebody else. The only way to make that work is to increase the demand in your practice. And you do that through marketing, community engagement, education, outreach to a broader community. You need more patients in the practice to make that work.
Stephen, maybe you could just touch again on what our members can expect going forward. I see now we have a lot more people that have joined the webinar than were here earlier, and they may have maybe missed exactly what SABHA's offering is going to be. Maybe just in a nutshell, you can go through that again.
Yeah, sure. So SABHA, the South African Health Business Academy, is concerned with the notion that that a healthcare professional, a clinician, particularly a private practice principal, can achieve the life they want to live if they have an understanding of the sound principles of business and financial management. By addressing their knowledge gap in running a business, a modern business, a business that is positioned for future readiness. And mind you, I'm sure I don't need to tell you, but I will, that the world of healthcare is transforming at an unprecedented rate. It's changing at an unprecedented rate. You know, the confluence of advancing technologies and patient empowerment are leading to a reimagining of the role of healthcare practices and what is required of them to be successful. So SABHA, the South African Health Business Academy, our role is to teach and empower and provide the necessary resources for doctors and dentists to become better business people, better financial managers, and in the process, achieve the life they want to live.
I think that's an excellent summary. And we have a bit of a funny comment from someone who says, and you must be able to dance on TikTok.
If that's what brings you a smile on your face at the end, yes.
Whatever works, hey? Whatever works.
For me, instead of dancing on TikTok, for me, it's about travel with my family.
Yes.
And I'd admire the person who said before, I have a holiday once a year. That's great. I need to have 4 or 5.
I agree with that.
I'll let you in on something that we will talk about further. It's a personal story, but I'll tell you something. And then if you don't mind, we might end here. But to tell you a personal story, I spend a significant part of an incredible part of percentage of my earnings on lifestyle, on holidays, on restaurants, on experiences. I'm almost 64 years old. I have my wife and I have we started a family later in life. We have 20-year-old twins, a boy and a girl. And we go on holidays quite often, and we spend quite a lot of time with them building memories and enjoying our lives. Now, this is not because I am obscenely wealthy. I've done okay. I'm comfortable, but I would venture to say, a much larger proportion than your average person of my income on lifestyle. Why do I do this? I do this because, and I'm giving away now a bit of a story that I will tell at the courses, and hopefully you'll all participate in those. I do that because I learned lessons very early on in life that life is short.
Yeah.
And life can actually be a lot shorter than we think it is,
Yeah. Absolutely.
and expect it to be.
Mm.
And I have experienced um, the loss of people in my life far younger than they should have gone, and at an age that I was far younger than I should have experienced that. And I'll tell the detail about that later, some other time. But that taught me a really big lesson. The most important thing in my life is providing a platform for success for my family.
Mhm.
That's the most important thing I'm not saying that's what drives everybody, but that's what drives me. And and for me, the characteristics of that platform are not money in the bank. They're not a portfolio of houses
Mm.
and property. They are experience, they are memories, they are influence, they are the characteristics of that platform of success are living a life that is being present in their lives. So I have engineered my life based on the experiences that I had at a very young age. I've engineered my life as I've got older and as we've developed a family where I have breakfast with them every morning. I have dinner with them every evening. When they were at school, I'm always available to drive them somewhere or pick them up from somewhere. I do quite a lot of travel, and so I may be away for 2 weeks at a time, delivering a series of courses in South Africa or in London or somewhere, even within Australia or whatever. But when I'm home, I have breakfast with them in the morning. I have dinner with them in the evening. We go on regular holidays every year, some within the country, some overseas. I'm yet to bring my family to South Africa. It's proving difficult to coordinate everybody's availability. Both my children are studying law, and they're studying law at different universities, and they have holidays at different times. It's a nightmare for this plan of being present in their
Sounds like a
lives.
logistical nightmare.
But I say all of this in response to, and that's a great thing, so long as you still have time to dance. Not, that's the priority. The dancing on TikTok is the priority. And everything else should be a support mechanism to allow you to, whenever you feel like it, as regularly as you want to dance on TikTok. Or for me, go on holidays and play sport with my family, and be there for breakfasts and dinners. And
Well, as the saying goes, travel is the only thing you buy that makes you richer, hey?
yeah, yeah, I think so. I definitely think so. Yeah.
So I think I'm going to wrap up with a very nice comment from Dr. Alistair Brown, who says, "This has been a very well spent hour. Thank you."
Thank you,
And
Alistair.
thank you so much, Stephen. I know it's an ungodly hour for you, so thank you so much for availing yourself and being awake and alive and very responsive to these questions. And like I said earlier, we really look forward to the SABHA SADA partnership and what our practitioners can learn from you, take back home, incorporate into their practices, and not only their practices, but their lifestyles. So thanks a million, and we look forward to the next webinar.
Thank you so much, Tanisha. I really appreciate, the effort. First of all, the mindset that you have as an organization, that you care so much about your members, that you want to really drill down on this notion of what does success look like, and how do we help and provide resources to help our members achieve that. And that is, can I say, rare. It's not that common. Most medical and healthcare organizations and associations and representative bodies have become money-making machines, and you need money to continue to deliver, but they lose sight ultimately, eventually, of what their members really need. And you haven't, and I really appreciate that. I'm sure your members do too. One final thing I want to say before I say good night. if it's okay with you, I might share some resources that speak to what we've been talking about this evening with you
Yes,
so that you can, distribute them onto your members. And another thing I might do, if it's okay with you, is send you a communication piece with a QR code that invites your members to join the SABHA WhatsApp group and
okay.
continue to get updates on the upcoming SADA-SABHA
Oh,
collaboration and
yeah,
future education initiatives to come.
that would be amazing. Thank you so much. I would be happy to distribute that in our next communication to our members. So I look forward to that.
Thank you, Tanisha. Thanks,
Okay,
everybody. Love
thanks.
your questions
Good
and look forward
night or
to
good
engaging again
morning,
soon.
should I say?
Good night to you. See you again
Okay,
soon. Thank you.
bye.
Bye-bye.